Welcome to This Is You Know podcast. My name's Martin and I'm in Southampton to talk about disability news in the UK, to explore stories and give a your opinion. Though there are news signs out there for disability news, disabled people news affects our lives, still underreported, and Japanese many thought we're underrepresented in the media. So in this podcast, is a way to challenge the balance. So after doing this news, Sophie from BBC taking glitch leaves and disabled people into brave care. Some disabled people have been left alone to pay for the care because of glitch in the funding system used by councils across the UK. The technical issue means some carers and professional assistants have not been paid for more than a week. One woman who used to watch still left vulnerable people and essential workers in member. The company that runs the system prepaid financial services. PFS apologised and said it was working to make time the situation as quickly as possible. Many local authorities provide funds for people who qualify for support by issuing prepaid cards, which is the seats can be used to pay for care. So in recipient, many disabled people use the money to hire care workers or professional assistants, which means they become employers. The local government association spokesperson said local councils are working hard to provide alternative payment options. It added the councils are working to ensure continuity of care, especially for those with the highest levels of need. And furthermore, runs network of disabled people called Being the Bars. Employees provide personal assistance around the clock care for a home in Leicester. Care costs £11,000 a month and is run by Leicester County Council will be by the card. She told the BBC she would about the consequences of not being able to access the funds. She can no longer, would never otherwise afford it. If they don't get paid, my please continue to call. I am named Billiard, so the book stops with me. It's about Wilson. It should be left for stretched in anger. She says this service black agency but book people essential workers in limbo without a viable alternative. SD Council said around 3,500 people in the county held prepaid cards, but not all of them would be impacted by what was called a quote-unquote national issue. Spokesperson for the council told the BBC it had reached out to those who were affected with supporting advice what to do if they need to make payments urgent. The alternative arrangements were in place. We appreciate the difficulties this caused and do everything we can to help. Nicola from Bradford, who has the BBC Country Boy's second name, is a full-time carer for a daughter who has multiple disabilities. To require around the country. She first noticed that she was not lucky to a payment account on the 14th of July. Her daughter also has 6 other carers, so she thought of them to the works restored. I will be quite still awake 24 hours a day, which is not possible. But me and my daughter be housebound as I'm not have support to take her out, she said. BBC contacted Bradford County Council for response. For the council. With this, personal assistant from Walker be acquainted to the BBC through your voice or BBC. He's paid weekly and said she was old. 720 last week because Collins had been able to buy her. I went to during some days, so I was really connected by Thursday, and she said, he's with us. I was able to get a local CRM or a local bounty with him. There was no luck on up during this week, as it was a one-off gesture. Now, let's see, this is quite a scandal, to be honest. It's something that obviously needs a resolution and big red cards. So not really odd idea, really. To look into an actual RT system, I haven't read that before. So that-based government RT schemes time to against it fail individuals and the organisation at large. And really, they need to provide some kind of swift response because, as we see, didn't input on the stuff, but people learn loads of boards, and I think the opposite there should be contingency fund that local authorities can debut. Of course, local authorities themselves will say funding cuts, etc., and so forth, which in those terms have been are millions the last decade or so, continue to go. Obviously, we know a lot. It's been at least one, if not many, on the brink of financial collapse in the last few years. Again, you get back to, was it quite a few episodes ago about disabled people and big employees, and like the quote said, you what you own, and it's one of those things where basically the support is your effectively saying your employer, but the funds are coming from an external source, and we need to contingency in place. And as well, prepaid cards and it's for some people, but they do work for that, don't they? Being a blanket drink is a good idea if you're getting back the responsibility of being employees, and then you've got to be able to trust them to manage the finances. Get a third party in place to manage your finances external of local authorities who themselves struggling to manage finances. Once it will be fenced, and the systems need to manage. It's been dangerous to a point. But hopefully there'll be some kind of resolution, but one needs to, as local authority always say, if something happens, learn the lessons. And obviously this system isn't alright, it's going to have to teach you it's the nature of the beast, but need to look at kind of contingencies to some individual life systems. But these things happen. There's a fallback option, because again, as well, the increase in understanding is a side, but because there's no hint of kind of foul play, but in the end we increasingly seeing side attacks on institutional parts of infrastructure. So again, I think need to continue to be looking at security and take pictures, etc. and so forth. And maybe outsource locally to the local authority. Procurement of every price systems a bit more. And maybe various different providers in one locale, so that you don't have everyone using the same system, and therefore if it breaks down, people are left in limbo. But I think prepaid cards for some may work, but not for all. Essentially autonomy in there as well. So yeah, lessons need to be learned from now on. But the big system, maybe will turn to good paid off for all, but for some is for obviously they're just employers because they're employers. Maybe set some limited companies and then having business accounts, and then social services transferring the funds to those business accounts, because effectively it should be very great in terms of funds get paid to staff, and then BYE, and that's all the resistance. There's only a lot of rates, so like most of the businesses where you've got many overheads to think about, you're basically paying wages and BYE. So if they set up individual business accounts for those who can obviously manage accounts, etc. and so forth, that's when it gets complicated. But for most individuals, we get that capacity to manage their own accounts fine and manage staff. Especially if local authorities tend to like. Actually, that idea is our thing is that Although it's meant to be autonomy control. What if can happen in those situations is local voters tend to want individuals to go through an agency to pay for to source their staff or something, employ their own direct and the grievances, etc. So in which case it should be even more easier because they're all part in the front and then they're paying their agency and transactions much smoother because they'll take the payway and all the rest of it. So maybe this is not individual to companies, and then this is bank accounts and local property bought in front of it there, and moving from that aspect essentially go right forward for some individuals, and then doing away with the necessity for a nationwide IT system. Obviously, the local property have their own IT systems in terms of tracking, etc. and so forth. Individuals' funds withdrawal is a working case anyway, but then we do away the prepaid system, which in ways will get fights in the face of autonomy of individuals who then, on one hand, attempt to exert control in one sense, but on the other sense, when responsibility for who's not being paid, who's not being paid, and structural issues, etc., unfortunately, they think it being taught, so it's ever force prevalent. Story 2 is also from the BBC. It allows disputed golf champion goals for probably not. Disputed golf champion Brad Smith was called for the sport to encourage it in future Olympic Games. In June, Smith won the English Open for golfers. The disability for the second successive year. Bumps out awarding day. He says there's definitely enough players to make it into the Olympics. He told BBC Radio North. One day it should be, well, no one knows. It's frustrating. There's nothing we can do about it. Golf returned to the Olympics at the 2016 Rio Games after 112-year absence. The sport has never been included in the Paralympics despite course and plays. In 2021, the International Paralympic Committee said golf did apply for Paris 2024, but was not fully compliant with the set of requirements for inclusion. Los Angeles will host the next Olympics and Paralympics in 2028, but in 2023 a bid for Paragolf to be included was again rejected by the IPC. It's clear Smith will be a candidate to represent Paralympics GP if and when the sport does gain Paralympic status and 27 and started playing golf as a teenager and turfs. While the young takes at the age of 22 and said the transition to disabled golf was difficult. What did I get from the article here? I lost my leg to a rare form of bone cancer and had to learn to walk again, Smith said. Tried that by disability golf and started playing. It got bigger and bigger every year. It was a struggle getting back into golf with one leg. There was an uphill shots that I've tried and error. Smith is the golf professional at the Royal Corner course in Norfolk and is winning back-to-back English Open to a street country. To win the first time round was one of my goals. To win it again the next year was very, very good feeling, he said. Smith said he suspected on the sport strengths. It's like he's now more capable of controlling his emotions on the course. Said when I had 2 legs, I was quite a big golfer. For the bad hole, I'd be on with the next hole, though I don't get anywhere near as I used to. But the next shot was completely forgotten. Says Indian golf runs more than 50 tournaments a year for disabled golfers, and Smith says the sport is on the rise. The futures can bright for disabled golfing. From the game gets keen to it, promoting it from a bigger scale, he said. So you've been good. Well, as many sports competing in politics as possible will be good. I don't know. Perspective of, I think, obviously, if there's just awareness of the scope to broaden horizons of the Paralympics, I think as many sports should be included as possible, I think. And where you've got talent and you've got emerging Sport, I think he's got a point. Obviously, I don't know the requirements, the IPCs and so forth, but I think maybe they should. If there is, an emerging breed of golfers there, I think they should look at it. I think anywhere you can, and if they look at really, if you look at darts, where darts was, a few years back, obviously, you had Phil Taylor for decades and decades dominating the sport. Only takes twice of someone like Liquid there to see how, get capture the imagination and inspire a host of young, not just viewers, competitors. So again, if golf is something that's on the rise and it's capturing the imagination, and obviously I think you maybe need to look there again, because anything can inspire any sport really in this country, across the world, and the youth and etc. to get involved, disabled or otherwise. I think it's important, as we see now, especially in this generation's coming up with the screen generations, Instagram generations, anything that inspires kind of activity and kind of getting out there and touching grass and getting involved in sport and just outfit living. And I think it's a positive, and anything that can inspire sports people to get involved in sport and then to get more exposure to get exposure, to get big sport exposure really as well. So obviously, it's been involved, but they'll be a bit more internationally captured. It's that spirit of 2012 since then. And I think anywhere you can see a rising star and potential for sport to catch fire, imagination of the wider public, I think it's a good thing. Next story is in the Folk Award. I know that it's got a regional story. I think it's got a wide perspective, wide resonance. And that's headline is 2 new dredging case toilets are now opening for Cook. 2 new toilet facilities that people with family and multiple disabilities can use safely with dignity and are opening for Cook. Worker Council's latest 200 toilets can now be found beside the active travel hub, Gundabar, and the Falkirk State. Dredging case toilets have much more space than standard accessible toilets, with equipment that includes height adjustable dredging bench and ceiling hoist. Scottish Jumpity Pannies, which works for people found in multiple disabilities and their families welcome the use of the facilities in their own. Joining me, then, CEO said, "We are delighted to have worked with the Falkirk Council on the installation of 2 new dredging-based toilets in Calendar Park and Falkirk State. People to be found in multiple disabilities, as well as people with other disabilities such as spinal injuries. Muscular dystrophy and multiple sclerosis often need extra equipment and space to allow them to use the toilet safely and comfortably." In November 2024, Falkirk Council agreed to spend $400,000 to provide 4 changing cases across the district. There is no data yet for the facilities for Bonnie Bride Library and Della Park in Falkirk. Spokesperson for Falkirk Council's the Della Park is currently going through its own process from the statutory consent process, and construction completion is expected early next year. Bonnie Bride is in the stage, and while there are no fixed timescales, it's likely to be summer next year. I know it's business original based already. It's specific for Falkirk, but it's got a wide resonance, because I think, to be honest, it's wide resonance because there's exactly what's happening in every council across the UK. 2025, given that we are 30 years down the line from the DDA, and you see changing places, toilets here and there, really in the one scheme of things where, they should need individual charities to be able to be outsourced funding to get these kind of facilities in place in public places. There should be common town centres and city centres and major city centres, even up being large hotel chains, etc. and so forth. That's what we should be seeing obviously difficult in terms of providing them all public communities in terms of restaurants and bars, etc. and so forth. I guess it's very difficult to expect all businesses to get full back up the infrastructure, but certainly in town centres. And the cases, just say for instance, libraries, sports centres, community centres, and certain, well, maybe even in certain nature facilities such as bars and something, if the council provide those premises, they should at least maybe propose or levy on service charge in terms of compensating for if they were to buy that infrastructure in terms of making that down to stages, toilets, or a levy on certain businesses, maybe things such as nightclubs and venues that get regular huge footfalls, but especially for major chains such as the Wetherspoons, etc. and so forth, if they got that subsidy scheme for that kind of thing, for venues that they know kind of do bring major footfall to a town, to a city, then maybe that's something they've got to look into. But it's a good news story, but again, it's not enough in terms of accessible provision, and there should be more. And the argument will be, is there enough use, etc. and so forth. You look at the kind of statistics of, how much usage that we get, but essentially the reason why disabled people don't flourish if they can access their area, local areas and amenities and etc. and so forth, and get active communities because the facilities don't exist. So it's not providing them as commonplace. That was a use. We all know that, the statistics around about the very pound, say dollar or disabled pound, but we haven't really been to the economy. And that's before, I've said this thousands of times before, we look at literally how much we bring in the billions in terms of just literally what it needs in terms of social care, healthcare, etc. and so forth. Care industry, etc. and so forth. But before we get to that, we talk about disabled. We considerable players in these amenities, which are basic human rights, really. The right to go to the toilet and some dignity there. You'll see significant upturning kind of in there. But I think that story is from the Nursing Times. This is first nurse created for fight on multi-neuron disease research. A nurse has been recruited by a charity dedicated to multi-neuron disease, MND, in order to help drive forward research into the condition. Multi-neuron Disease Association has announced the appointment of Andy Hamilton as the first fully funded research nurse for this new research nurse network. Multi-neuron disease has announced it helps in time. Nurses will be embedded into the 24 MND care centres and networks across England, Wales and Northern. It's a big investment, 7.2 billion over 4 years, one that will make a huge difference to people with MND and revolutionise how average virals are accessed across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. The MND Association focuses on improving access to care, research and campaigning for those people living with or affected by MND in England, it is a fatal, rapidly progressing disease that affects the brain and spinal cord, it attacks the nerves that control movements and muscles no longer work. This should affect more than 5,000 adults in the UK at any one time. 6 people die or illness when MNK in the UK, and the same number die from it each day, just under 2,200 per year. It has no cure and kills a third of people within a year, or more than half within 2 years of diagnosis. That's the association. Obviously there's kind of good news in terms of research side of research into effects of MND and possible treatments, cures, etc. and so forth. It's an ongoing project, and they'll hope to get, as I say, 24 nurses into 24 more projects across the UK, and we only work with them in for that. Obviously, we know it's been quite a few high-profile celebrities with him in debt. I think of the footballers, that's a few years ago, and obviously anything that can help towards finding kind of cures or treatments is welcomed. That's all from this episode. Thanks for joining us, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.